Brass Tacks with Empress Wendy.
With Empress Wendy on Vibes 101.3 FM. Brass Tacks.
No holding back.
Return is in death row. Shoti was a bad man, maybe shaped by his time in the underground. So he returned to this strange land with awards from Her Majesty and decided to return we to colonialism. Fence up he ground, lay down he pound, cutlass in hand, marching to and from. But this is Karakou and that's slavery done. Man don't hide to smoke weed no more, we free. And who cares if England make he and she never see come see most stupidity.
I'm just loving that one. And folks, I guess by the words in that poem and by the voice, you must have known who we're talking to this morning. This morning with us, it's a pleasure to have our very own poet, if I may refer to you as that, Mr. Izzaak, Jeffrey Izzaak, and of course from the community of Mount Pleasant. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Wendy. My pleasure. Lovely to be here.
All right. This morning, we're going to be talking to Mr. Izzaak as it relates to a venture he has gotten himself into. And I'm also excited about it, not just as someone who has a love for reading, but as a past student of Mr. Izzaak, and I'm so proud of him. I always say that to him. You know, I just love when I see him. You just remind me of I was a student, a product of Mr. Izzaak. So this morning, Mr. Izzaak, tell us about that, you know, the whole initiative of your book.
Well, in short, the book is called Poetic Duty 1, coming from Karakou. And it's a product that I've been working on for, well, quite a while. It depends from which point of view you take it. The poems in here are coming from 2 decades of construction.
That's great. What really inspired you to, you know, compile these poems?
That's a real good question. And the simple answer is Karakou. One can't escape everything that surrounds you. For example, the sea and the people and all the interactions, the history of this place. It's that which moves the author to speak. And the way the author speaks is through the written word. Yeah, so you can't escape it. It's just the people and the place.
Well, I've realized in what you've just read there is a lot of what we call colloquial language there. You know, you sort of put it together so that even the ordinary man can understand or relate to what you're speaking about.
Yes, we hope. See, since this is about Karakou, we hope that first and foremost that Karakou people can relate to what they read. We want them to be familiar with the things. And we want them to see what is being spoken about and to grasp it and to laugh and to make them think and ruminate. You know, yes, it's for the people after all.
So it seems therefore that you probably would have been on a trip. When I say trip, I mean throughout the various communities, you know, looking at the persons, or people, I should say, or native people, because you're not just speaking to that of the young people in your book of poems, but you're also including, you know, from back then, the elder folks, how they behave and so on. Speak to us as it relates to how you actually, you know, gotten to combine all those together.
Okay, let me take it from this perspective. Take the 2 stanzas that I read from Return is in Death Row. And one might ask, well, what is that about? Well, it is about this situation that exists in our society, this rift, this chasm between a generation that left here primarily in the 1960s, 1950s, 1960s, and went to the UK and to the US and Canada, but primarily the UK. And they've returned from the 1980s onward to build their homes and to retire and to plant their gardens. Some to relive the life that they remembered when they left. But now in their returning, the problem has arisen where there's a younger generation in place, a younger generation that are not so aware of their history, and a younger generation that in many ways they have not come to terms with them. And so they're back, but they find themselves even strangers in their own place. And the young people are having none of the kind of thoughts and ideas they seem to want to come from say UK and try to transplant here, they're saying, well, yes, we understand you from here, but it's a different time now. So I'm saying all that to say this, Wendy, that this is a commentary and observation of what's happening in the society, that it's something that exists, and as an observer, the author writes, he pens his take on something like that. And so it's not like one goes around thinking, yeah, I need to write about this person or that person. No. The event happens and you record it sometime. It's like being on the beach 4:20 this morning and the quarter moon came out hanging and the light just streamed across the bay coming right to the shore. I couldn't help but record that afterward, write it. So I happened to be there, I saw something, I put it on paper.
So it's like a reality thing.
Oh yeah. We don't make stories. There's no fantasy here. We don't dream. Not that we don't dream, but we don't make illusion. We try to deal with, well, it's what we see.
What happens on a day-to-day life. Yeah. This other question for you, in terms of putting all these poems together and actually coming out to give us a book, were there any challenges? Well, I shouldn't ask what, because in everything you do, there are challenges. What are some of the challenges that you've faced?
I think that's a good question, Wendy, because I'm trying to think about the challenges I really had. Probably the greatest challenge was doing a book at all. See, I've been writing for over 3 decades. I've just been writing these things and collecting them in boxes and papers everywhere. And along the way, people who became familiar with my writings, I was in the theater, my brethren there, they'd ask, well, Isaac, since you stopped this backyard of poems, what are you going to do? Are you going to do something? Are you going to publish these things? I'd read for people at work, read to my siblings at home, and the question would always come, so what are you going to do with them? It didn't bother me, it didn't faze me. So the greatest challenge is probably doing a book, after all, putting them together. But the work was there already, so that wasn't a challenge. I just simply had to come up with some themes, see the poems that had similarities and fit into a particular theme. And the rest, well, really easy, and get a publisher. That was probably a challenge, to locating someone who would actually do the book. And when that was done, it was really easy.
And who's that person actually?
Well, it's not a person, it's a publishing entity called Author House. They do self-publishing. Okay. Yeah, so it's not like a publisher who gives you some kind of funds up front because they think you're good and all that. I'm a no-name person.
No, don't say it like that.
And I just wanted to do something and got in touch. They got in touch with me, and it was smooth after that.
Okay, who actually did your editing?
Well, I did, because the poems, some of them are 20-something years old. I had a lot of time to smooth things out. But I passed on the manuscript to a few people, and one of them is his name slipped me. Brathwaite.
Okay.
But yes, that was one of them, Mr. Brathwaite. He did some editing for me. I appreciate that. And a few other people I passed it through. And then we sent it off to the publishers.
For persons listening to this interview, now hearing that Mr. Isaac has a book out, Jeffrey Isaac has a book out, what would be the message you would give to them in terms of, actually convincing them why they should read or why they should purchase your copy?
Very nice. Poetry is a very fickle thing, a very subjective thing. I've had people read my writings. I used to write in a paper before. And they say, what are you talking about? They had no clue, and I appreciate that. And something that's fantastic for one person is rubbish to another person. So poetry is very subjective. Bearing that in mind, this book is not just poems, and as we just said, we're not dealing with make-up or make-believe. People can readily identify many of the subjects that are being dealt with, the people that are in the pictures. And they could associate with them because these are people they see in their everyday lives. The things that are evolving on Karaku, they could associate with it or with these things. So it's familiar territory for a lot of people, and I think people are going to be really enthused when they see people in a new light. It's like, oh, that's Isaac's take on this person, but I never saw them that way before this. Oh, interesting. And it's a historical text as well. It covers a lot of the things that have transpired in this island, in this territory, from, you could say, from emancipation, 1834, 1838, right down to now. For example, it deals with land issues. Even in Returnees in Death Row, that's one thing that was dealt with. So there's a historical perspective to the book as well. So bearing all that in mind, yeah, I think people can be very enthusiastic about it, should be very interested. I certainly hope that they are. And they would identify things in there. They would see themselves in the pictures. And from the perspective that Carriacou is an interesting place, has always been, that alone is reason to buy the book, I would say. Look, this is coming from a unique place, Carriacou. So,
son of the soil.
If anything, buy the book because it's from Carriacou and it's from a Carriacou.
And it's about Carriacou.
Yes, man, yes.
Okay, Mr. Izzaak, as I'm trying to, bring across this point here, poems, being able to, bring across or recite poems and stuff like that has a lot to do with, I should actually say, related to that of public speaking. Have you ever thought about, hosting a program whereby persons can, or where you will be able to avail yourself so that you can actually assist persons in public speaking and even dramatizing? Because I know, being able to see you in the past performing with Tumda, I can tell that that's your kind of thing. Have you ever thought of, opening up that kind of theater or such?
It's not an impossibility in that, look, in this world, the way some things go, anything could happen, as some people say. But I would say not really. I haven't thought of myself as being a teacher in that mold, where I'm going to try to pass on skills to people. Probably not.
Why?
I'm not saying, no, I said probably not. I'm not saying
no,
that is not possible. But then again, the shape it takes might be a totally different concept to that which we were just talking about, saying no, yes. But it might not be in the way we're talking about it now. Because, things could happen, and the way it's happening, it's not the way people might think it should happen, or it's not the way people see it as how it should be happening. So it could happen. It could be, for example, it could be happening in the village and nobody knows about it one-on-one.
Or even at the school level, even in Grenada, right there in Grenada, the public speaking among the various schools, and it actually helps young people to be able to express themselves openly, publicly. And here we don't see that kind of thing. You may approach a young person and ask them, about a specific topic. Even simple things like, how's your day going, and simple things like that, they can't even, they'll probably tell you good or bad, and, it ends there, so.
Well, maybe, I can't say that I've necessarily discovered that, Wendy. Maybe it's our responsibility to try to draw the young people to interact with them on a level that they could understand. And it's let me just go on a tangent. It's like that same thing, Returnees in Death Row, right? Part of the problem is that our foreparents, if we can call them that, because they are elders, they return and they find it difficult to interact with the now generation. They don't understand how the youths are going, how they're going. And they speak in a derogatory manner about the youths. And the youths, obviously, they rebel against that. They resent that. So the youths are not going to be their friends. The youths are not going to go to their homes. The youths are going to say, you build your house, you build your fence, you build your gate, and that's your business. And so